Hello everyone, welcome back to my Flosstube. My name is Beth and this is Busy Bee Stitches. And I'm here with my February stitching update. I know it's the middle of March, but I'm going to talk about February stitching today. So, starting with a high-level overview, I stitched 9,327 stitches in February, which is a little bit more than January, so that's nice. I stitched 62 hours, almost 63 hours, and worked on stitching 22 days out of the month. So yeah, pretty good. I worked on 7 projects in February, and I had one project that was a start and a finish. So, yeah, so that leaves my whip count steady at 34. And feeling good about that. So, I worked on, looks like three whip rotation goals this month. And I also did 2 goals out of my do stuff rotation. I'm doing those in 2-week blocks. My whip rotation is just whenever I finish one, I start the next one. But my do stuff rotation is in 2-week sections. So I worked on black work, which I'll show you in my projects, and I did a puzzle. So that was really fun. My next one in my do stuff rotation is to FFO something, and I have just, you know, a handful of hours left to get that done on time. I'm gonna forgive myself if it takes me a couple extra days to do it. It's a busy weekend here, so I don't know if I'm gonna get it done today, but I'm gonna try. And then the next one that I have coming up is to stitch on something that is on a different kind of fabric than I've ever used before, or a different count of fabric, new to me count of fabric, or a new to me like type of fiber, something like that. So what I've chosen to do for that is to try silk gauze. I have been wanting to try that for a while now, and I almost changed my plan because I couldn't find silk gauze anywhere. So if you know like where to consistently find silk gauze to buy, where you don't have to buy it by like the yard because you use like a tiny little bit for each project, let me know. But I did discover, thank you to my wonderful stitchy friends last night, who helped me figure out that that I actually have some silk gauze in an Erica Michaels pattern that I have. I assumed that all my Erica Michaels patterns were just patterns, and that they weren't kits, but it turns out 2 of the patterns that I had from her came with the silk gauze included. So I had a choice. I picked one. I'm not going to show you which one I picked. I'll show you that next month, and on Instagram. But so I am going to move forward with that plan to stitch on silk gauze for the first time starting next week. Anyway, so that was my stitchy, non-stitchy, stitchy adjacent progress. So now let's talk cross stitch. So I'm gonna continue with the order that I used last month. I really liked that, so I'm showing you in order of most to least amount of progress. And I'm getting really solidified in the app that I'm using to track my time now, and so I'm definitely gonna make a video to show you how I'm doing that. I'm hoping like next month to be able to film that for you, and then I've been getting a bunch of questions about my stash dives, and people are asking me if I'm gonna bring those back. So thank you for enjoying them. And yes, I do want to bring those back. I just need a little bit of time because I don't know, I just got off track of like labeling everything in my stash, and I need some time to catch back up on that. So I'm hoping that when I get back from my honeymoon in like May or June, I can get back doing a stash drive every month. So you'll get 2 videos from me every month instead of 1. But at the moment, I'm just focused on getting you at least a video every month. So that's where I am right now. All right, let's talk stitching progress. So the project that had far and away the most progress in February was data portraits. This is by Shaded Stitchery. This is a sampler based off of the data portrait charts by W.E.B. Du Bois. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. Du Bois. My mom tried to tell me it was Du Bois, but I think that's wrong. I think it's Du Bois. Anyway, so I worked on this beautiful sampler. Shaded Stitchery did a SAL in February, and so I worked on 1 part every day pretty much. At least I kept up to date with it. Even on the days that I missed, I caught back up pretty quickly. So without further ado, here is my finish on that. And I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that already. I'm gonna give myself a little video thumbnail here. There we go. And so I did this on a piece of Fiber on a Whim 16 count Aida in cream and sugar. And I did this in almost all of the called for over-dyed flosses. I really like the effect, especially like you can see up here in the red. The over dyes really like gave the effect of the hand colored drawings that like this is representing. So I thought that was really beautiful, and so I wanted to make sure I was doing most of it in the over dyed. There are a few colors that are only used like in a smattering of places, and so I ended up just using the DMC there. So yeah, I'm really proud of this. And there we go, maybe that'll be my thumbnail. I'm really proud of this. I had so much fun stitching it. And I also spent some time learning about W.E.B. Du Bois and about the data portraits that this represents. I got a book, I think I mentioned this in my last video, but I didn't have it with me to show. I have it now. So this is the book that I got to learn about them. And I think this is a fantastic book. Here you can see all of the data portraits here. And the SAL takes some creative liberty with representing some of them, but always like trying to keep the integrity intact. So for example, there's this chart here that's like slices of a circle, and Shaded Stitchery displays it like this, side by side. So very similar, but not quite the same. And then there are some others that really had to get a little bit abstract to be able to show. For example, this one up here is a map, and that's going to be really hard to stitch in, you know, a compact way. And so it's actually represented in this little bit right here. So it's a little bit abstract, but it definitely represents the idea and sort of gets the effect across. So if you are curious about which bits of this sampler go to which charts, shaded stitchery on her Instagram, every day of the SAL showed like which charts were being represented by that part of the SAL. So that was helpful for some of the more abstract ones, figuring out what they were referencing. So this book was super interesting. The beginning of the book talks a lot about just like who W.B. Du Bois was, and sort of giving context about his life and what was happening in the world at the time, and also talks about the 1900 Paris World's Fair. And then the second half of the book talks about the different data representations and gives a little bit of a blurb about what they mean and the significance of each of them. So I'm trying to look for an example of the like hand-drawn effect. Well, actually, like, here's a really good one. I don't know, you can especially see it in the blue. Like, it's definitely hand-drawn with, like, probably marker or maybe colored pencil. And so you definitely see that, like, variegation in the coloring. So I really like that I was able to use a mostly variegated thread for this. So anyway, highly recommend this book. I really loved reading it, and it was super informative and interesting. So that was like over 40% of my February stitching. I worked on that for almost 27 hours in February. But it really didn't feel like that much because I was doing just a little bit every day. Next, for almost 10 hours, I worked on 100 owls. This is a, I want to get this right. So this is a 2020 whip, right? Sorry, hold on. Yes, so this is a 2020 whip. And so per my whip rotation when this came up, I worked on this for 1,500 stitches. So this is the Owl Forest SAL by Owl Forest Embroidery. And I'm doing this on a 40 count like dark cobblestone, I think. It's probably just like a Zweigart or something. And then the rest is the called for Owl Forest threads. And I worked mostly over on this side. I finished up these owls right here in the corner one, and then I worked on all the owls that are underneath there. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. And then I came back over to this side, and I started working on the owls on this side. So that's what I did. So I finished 2 parts of the SAL. One of them I'd already started where I was partway through. And then I finished an entire part and then started in on another part with this little owl down here. So I am now to the point where, like, I was working out of order of the SAL because the SAL starts like in the middle, or with these or these, I forget. And I didn't want to start that way. So I did the first few parts in a different order, but now I'm to the point where I can do the parts in order. So I can better keep track of like how many owls I've done and how far through the SAL I am. But let's see, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 owls out of 100. So, making progress. Next, also called in my whip rotation, I worked on Huckleberry Farm. I also worked on this for 100 or for 1500 stitches because this was a 2020 whip. But this project, I believe, also got some January progress, maybe not. Maybe it was all February. It was, yeah, it was around about the same amount of time spent as 100 Owls, so I bet I did this all in February. So let me show you a picture of what this will look like completed, because this looks pretty big and I've only done a small corner of it. But that's what I have done. I worked entirely on the house and I didn't finish it. I got most of the way through. I got almost all the way through like the structural bits of it. There's just like a little bit of gray down here. I ran out of that color, so I didn't finish it. And then pretty much the rest of it is filling it in yellow. So next time I pick this up, the house will get done. I love this project. I'm doing this on 40 count Shale by Picture This Plus, which is like my favorite fabric ever. And I believe it's the called for. I think it's the called for fabric. And I'm doing it in all the called for threads. And I don't think I said, but this is by the Blue Flower. So yeah. The next project I worked on was not part of my whip rotation. I worked on this project for Athena, Stitching Goddess Designs birthday. And I worked on this for her birthday because it has sort of like a love theme to it, and I started it for her birthday 2 years ago, I think, and I haven't stitched on it again since then. So I pulled it out for her birthday, and so I was on a chat with her, stitching this for quite a while. I got to stitch on it like during my lunchtime and a bunch after work, and I ended up just like going kind of ham and stitching on this a lot. So this is just 1 day's worth of progress. For the effect, I want to show you, if I can, a picture of where this was. Maybe I can pull a screenshot or something out of my whip parade from the beginning of the year to show you where this was before I started working on it this month. And I'll also show you what this will look like finished. This is by, I believe, Brenda Gervais. And here is my progress. Look at all of that progress. This is on 40 count. This is, gosh, I don't know. I want to say this is a color and cotton. Did I save the fabric info? Yes, I did. This is a 40 count color and cotton in vanilla. Luscious as always. So yeah, that's how far I got. And I'm obsessed. This was over 1,000 stitches. I love this project and I want to pull it back out immediately. I love it. And I have it in this very fitting pomegranate Love You More sleeve. So yeah, I worked on that for over 8 hours somehow. Maybe I like stitched through, maybe I had like a corporate update or something that day that I was stitching through. I don't even remember. I don't know how I managed to stitch over 8 hours in 1 day on that project, but I did. So that put it at over 13, almost 14% of my stitching for the month on just that 1 day. So thanks, Athena, for having a birthday. So as I mentioned, I had black work for my Do Stuff rotation. And I showed you a bunch of progress on this project last month, but I did get some more progress in this month before I put it away. And I ended up finishing a whole row. So this is Rainbow Black Work by Peppermint Purple. Here, let me show a picture of what this will look like done. And that's what it looks like now. I finished this whole second row since the beginning of the year. And I love it. It's gorgeous. I'm a little bit dreading the next row, only because it's done in a really, really light blue. So I'm worried that I'm gonna have a harder time seeing the pattern, like seeing the pattern on the fabric. But we'll see. Hopefully it'll be okay. So I worked on that for almost 5 hours in February. Next, for just about 2 hours in February, I'm not sure if I got any more progress on this since I showed it in my last video. It is February progress, but I had some February progress already to show you last time, so forgive me if this looks exactly the same as when I showed it to you last, but I worked on Silver Moon Tea by Mirabilia, and I worked on this for Fancy Lady Friday. And of course, I am not yet to the Fancy Lady, but she's in there somewhere, I promise. Let me show a picture of what this will look like finished so that you can actually see what this is. So it's a little hard to see, but I do have some moon progress, and then the rest is border and background. So I am enjoying stitching on this. I know I did not sound like it just now, but I promise I am. I missed Fancy Lady Friday in March, which is a bummer, but that's all right. Maybe this will come up in my whip rotation and I'll get progress on it anyway. Doubt it, but maybe. So finally, with just a little over an hour of progress, I spun in my whip rotation snowballs and icicles. I'll show you a picture of what that will look like finished. This is by Stitches by Ethel, I think. And I'm doing this on a piece of Fiber on a Whim, Silver Fox linen. And this was my New Year New Start, which of course I am keeping in my Stitching Goddess Designs and Judy bag. And so I worked on this because it was a new start this year. When I pulled it in my whip rotation, I worked on it for just 200 stitches. So I got the crow or the raven, blackbird of some sort. I got him mostly done. There's still some more of those two dark colors left to go, but it's mostly done. And then I get to do, you know, his beak and his scarf and the more fun parts of him, and then move on to the other bits. So that was it. That was my February stitching. It was a short month, but I did better in February than I did in January, so I think that's great. And I also got some like really concerted effort on some projects that hadn't gotten that much love in a long time, so that was really satisfying. And then getting a start and finish of a SAL and keeping up with it the whole way was also very satisfying. So overall, I'm really, really happy with my February progress. March plans. I already talked about my Do Stuff rotation for March. I know we're halfway into March, so what is my business talking about? What business do I have talking about plants? But I'm continuing with my whip rotation, and still really loving the format of my whip rotation, so that's great. And as of today, I've completed 10 goals in my whip rotation out of 34. So I'm about 27% complete. And March is, you know, a quarter of the way through the year. So I'm already a bit ahead of schedule. There's no schedule. You know, if I don't finish all these goals by the end of the year, the world is not going to end. If I finish all these goals by August and I get to go back through the rotation, then great. Yeah, and I'm also, you know, allowing myself to stitch on other things. Clearly, as I showed, like the project that I worked on for Athena's birthday, that are not part of my whip rotation, and so being, you know, caught up, so to speak, makes me feel good about choosing something outside of the rotation if I want to. But for the most part, I like haven't been like, I desperately need to work on this particular project. And so I'm just letting the rotation tell me what to do next. At some point soon, I'm gonna start to get antsy about frogworts because I still have year 3 to finish, and I want to finish that before I'm like trying to get started on year 4 and like already feeling burnt out about frogworts because I just stitched 10,000 frogwort stitches. Like I don't want to get into that situation. So I'm going to, if the whip rotation doesn't bring up frogworts in the next couple weeks, I'm probably gonna take that out and work on that at least for a little while, so that I feel better about how much progress I've done on that. Let's see, what else? What else? That might be it. That might be it for my plans. I did do some market buying. Not a ton, but definitely some. And I don't have them here. I just literally placed the order yesterday. So I don't have them here to show you yet. So I will show them in my next video, or maybe save them to be incorporated in stash dives. I don't know yet. But I did buy some things that I'm excited about. I gotta say, market didn't like blow me out of the water this year, and there was nothing, in my opinion, just for my style, there was nothing that I was like, I will die if I don't buy that right now. But there were definitely some things that I really liked and decided to get. I almost didn't buy anything, but once I started placing an order, then I was like, well, I might as well buy the things that I enjoyed. It always sort of works like that, right? So, I'm off to clean my house like a mad woman because we're having house guests next week, and so I'm just trying to get my life in order a little bit, and also we're going on our honeymoon at the end of April, and it will be really nice to leave my house like in a little bit of like calm as opposed to the current chaos that it's in right now. So yeah, that's what I got going on. Oh god, sorry, my pile of projects started falling over. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of March, and hopefully I will be back on in just a couple of weeks to show you my March wrap up rather than halfway into April, but I can only do my best, right? Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.